Hello once again, everyone. So now that Surfo is done and tournament is behind us for the moment, I am personally going to spend a lot of the summer working on armor and in general polearm fighting, etc. And so, with that in mind, one, expect a little bit more polearm content. Don't worry, the other things that I was working on leading up to Surfo are coming back, but beyond that, expect a little bit more of this kind of content. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go ahead and do a little exercise on driving. Now, what this is this comes to us from Joachim Meyer's Halberd section, and essentially it's just a way of combining the basic cuts. So driving, as per finished by his quarterstaff section, is the act of a continuous series of strikes that flow very well into each other. Basically think of it almost like a cutting combo, but not quite, since these are going to be a little bit more limited. The idea being that you are just moving in between two, usually succinct motions that flow very well into each other, and I can easily push my opponent back with them and get them responding to me the way I want, i.e. desperately parrying between two openings that I can predictably hold them in. So, there are a couple different directions we can drive and a couple different cuts we can do, so let's go through them. So, firstly, we will be standing with our left hand leading. Our right hand will be down by the butt. We're going to start off in his high guard, or overwhelm. Now the idea here with this one is that I can attack from a couple different directions, but I'm going to start off with my dominant side. So we're going to start with our high cuts, which is going to be I'm going to extend through, down, then I'm going to bring it up, thrust slash cut, so my thrust should go out and then I should rip it through, raise back up, down again. Now as you notice, my hip is turning as I do it. So I cut, but I don't necessarily turn. Thrust, let that turn, which reloads my hip. So rather than going further back, I am cocking it forward after the first one and then can work from there. Now, there are a couple things to keep in mind while you're doing this particular one. That being, watch out how far forward your right hand goes when you recover. You want it to be relatively in front of you still. Number two is how you're pushing through that cut. I don't want to be swinging with my left arm exclusively. I want to let the weight come through, so as you notice my left hand is opening when I do that last cut. I'm really more of sort of just pushing it. And these things in combination allow me to very easily drive forward with my overcuts. Now you can make them tighter than this. At the moment I'm kind of aiming for about torso. You can also aim for a target about the size of the head, and these should be going kind of through the face slash upper opening. But I'll show those again from the front. So, down, thrust down, down, thrust down, down, thrust down, and I'm just driving from my upper opening without much difficulty. Now, that's pretty good. Let's now move to below. So for below, this way I'll face this way. Our next action we're going to start off, this one's going to be thumbs to tip the whole way. Though if you read his treatise you later, do a thumb to thumb. But I'm going to relax my tip back, push it through and up, and I should finish off without moving my feet all that much. So down, up. I want it to be nice and forward. Now, the reason I bring extra emphasis to that is that you'll be tempted to turn with it. And certainly that makes a slightly more powerful cut, but that's not what we're looking for yet. Especially if we're moving forward when we do it. So, forward, then I'm going to turn back as I reload, bring my tip down, and rip it back through. Now, when you do it at speed, and do it fluidly, those two things will feel like they blend together, especially once you got some momentum going, right? Because that makes it pretty fast. The problem is, though, that first cut, because I'm turning with it, is shortened. Not necessarily what we're looking for driving someone. So instead, up, active, through. It's a little bit slower, sure, at least at first. But now I'm making sure things are activating when I want them to activate. So that's what we're going to go with. Now, a little more detail on that. So I cut up, boom. Next, keep your eye on the tip. Turn back with your feet. Bring this down, right down to about here. And then just push with your right hand, up, right back through the target. Again, same thing to watch out for. Make sure you're not punching your right hand forward as that becomes a target. I want it to be up, just back into the high guard, not up and then behind you. In general, try to keep your axe head relatively next to you for these motions, slash ahead of you. If it's coming back behind, that's now taking way too long to come to the forefront. Here's this again. So, up, through, up, through, up, through, up, through. Now I'll drive to the front. Up, through, up, through, up, through, up, through. Nice and solid. Now, you can combine these together, where now, rather than going 1, 2, or 1, 2, I can actually do all 4. So that will look like this. You can do this in a couple ways, but this is the, I believe I've actually talked about this with one of my core staff vids, the Halberd cutting pattern. It's not following Meyer's normal cutting pattern, but you certainly could do that. This is the way I like to float personally. So, I'm going to start high, I'm going to go down, up, then I'm going to go ahead and go up again, then down, through, and now I'm ready to launch again if I want, or alternatively, you can go up, down, over, up, down, over. That's the way I like to float personally, as it makes things a little bit more exciting, though it does start to add some cross body. So, let's now look at those in isolation, then we'll put them back in. So, the next style of driving is going to be when I go from one side to the other, and then straight back up the line. So if we were going both high, both low, now we're going dominant side, non-dominant side. And by non-dominant, I'm talking about in relation to being lead hand, so where my axe starts from. So my dominant side is my left hand, rather than my right. But either way. So our first driving is going to be pretty standard. I go down, back up. Now same thing applies that I talked about already. I don't want to be arcing back down, though you can. Instead, I want to be down in front. I end up more in the low guard, back up. If you're moving forward with this, you're going to need that kind of positioning. If you're just doing it for exercise, then you can start doing a little bit of adjustment there. But either way, push down, rip up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Again, notice that my hand is opening. I find this makes it easier to repower forward as I'm more just pushing as opposed to stopping and then re-engaging. This is mostly led with my right hand as opposed to my left. But here's that again. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Same thing as before. Make sure that right hand isn't coming out. Now, next, the slightly harder one, is going non-dominant. So that's going to be up, then back down. So you can start off here if you wish, or you can start from tip forward. Either way is fine. I'm going to start from tip forward because I find that's a more natural way to start. But I'm going to rip down to about here, where my axe is parallel with my leg, not coming back behind me. So something that can really help with this is to remember, this isn't a big hewing blade, and it's a false edge cut. I'm better off treating this as a rip, or a hook, or a small gouge, basically. The more I treat this as like a big smooth cut, yes, that can flow into something else later, but doesn't necessarily do me any favors for what I'm trying to do, i.e. driving. So, I'm going to keep my attack relatively small, just about there, and the rest of it is just momentum. Then I'm going to just squeeze it back up. Boom, boom. Now I'm driving from this side. Now this one's a little bit harder, because you've got to power in a different way, but equally useful. Especially because I can pull someone's weapon down and chop at their hands in the same motion. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So, now I've gone into those in a little bit of micro detail. We'll put them all together again. So if you remember, we were going up, down, down, up. So, start off in the high guard. Up, down, down, up. Up, down, down, up. Now I can just go ahead and keep moving through that. I can also do it with some movement if I wish. So I can go up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Notice I'm doing little advances. You can also lunge on the harder hitting cuts. So for example, the bigger down is a good one too. But the next thing you can do, if you wish, is you can start adding some extensions in there. Now that good driving will get you pretty far and is a very, very useful thing to practice. But if you want to give your left arm a break, what you can also do is start to do some sweeps. So those could be off of either here or here. So the idea here is I'm going to provoke my opponent to guard their inside. So from your perspective, you're trying to get me to go like this. That will open up the left side of their head. So either from here, rip, or from here, rip / extend. It could be a thrust. I'm going to let this turn and then pass forward with my Zorn. Here's that from the side. So either rip, turn over, Zorn, or thrust, turn over, Zorn. Now the key with this one is you can extend further, but bear in mind it's a lot of weight out there. As you do the turn, leave your left hand where it is, kind of let it kick back into your hand. Bring your right hand around, push forward, and step deep with your back foot. You're already close enough to threaten the person, you don't really need to get a ton more reach. Not to mention if they do back up, you're probably going to get their hand since they're standing this way. Either way though, here's that now, a little bit of driving, and then I'll step forward with the Zorn. So, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, Zorn. Here's that again. I'll go from the front this time. Up, down, down, up, down, down, up, Zorn. So, just a fun little thing you can do. But either way, that's just some basic driving. It's what my Halberd class has been warming up with lately. But it's good practice. Make sure that you're letting both arms do their job. And this will beef up the left shoulder to get a little more even with your right if you're a right-handed fencer. But either way, thank you very, very much for watching. We'll go over some other techniques another time.